Ciao.
Powerful. The real genius of Macintosh is that you don't have to be a genius to
hope for the best and pray for the worst. Is that
yes.
the phrase I've been hearing over and over again since I woke up this morning?
Good God. Hey, Peter Cohen is here with us, by the way. Everybody, Peter Cohen is here. Flarg, Flargh on Twitter. Is there any place else I should send people, or are we just doing Twitter right now?
Oh, my website, peter-cohen.com. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah, I guess I should probably market myself a little bit better.
Peter-Cohen.com would also be a good place to go. Let's not talk about what's going on as we record this today, because honestly, we don't know what's going on as we record this today as far as world politics.
And honestly,
we're
not going to have a take on it that's not going to come off as existential dread one way or the other. So let's just not go there.
That's true. And there's other stuff that we don't know about that we can go ahead and talk about anyway. Like?
Yeah, with equal existential ramifications, at least, depending on your worldview.
See, I was going to save that part till tomorrow. Because seriously, I do want to talk about that tomorrow, but let's talk about that tomorrow. Today, let's just talk about the thing. So as we record this, it's been about 24 hours since Apple said, hey, one more thing, come on out. Now, I feel like we could do a whole...
Oh, no, that is what I'm talking about.
No, I understand that. I'm saying the existential dread part comes tomorrow.
Oh, the existential dread part comes tomorrow. Okay.
Or the existential implications. Today, I just kind of want to talk about, what it is that we're going to see there. Because I think the one thing that we all agree on is it's going to be Apple Silicon Macs. But first of all, is it going to be Macs plural? Is it going to be Macs singular? Do you buy this whole thing of how they're going to start small with like maybe a 12-inch consumer device, but not really go into the, the rest of the stuff? And the other thing I'm wondering about is, your thought on using the one more thing line and what the implications of that are. So which do you want to do first? Okay. You want to do the hardware or do you want to do the marketing?
Let's talk about the hardware.
Okay. What are you looking for? What would it take to get you into one of these new MacBook Pros, Peter Cohen? No, so you're thinking...
Right, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a MacBook Pro, and I think that's because we've seen this play out before. We've seen Apple go from PowerPC to Intel. Many of us old guard were around for that. Some of us were even around for the change from 68K to PowerPC. So we've seen this play out a couple of times, and I strongly suspect that Apple is going to release a pro-level machine with the new hardware to demonstrate, first of all, the silicon's functionality, and secondly, to give people a solid reason to upgrade. Whether or not it's going to be multiple ones, I don't know, and I don't really care because this is the snowflake that started the avalanche, right? This is going to be the first of the rest of the line. So regardless of how many Mac models get introduced with this new announcement, all of them are going to follow suit sooner or later. That's the important thing to keep in mind. That's the top level thing that everybody's got to remember when this stuff gets introduced.
See, that's one of the things that sort of puzzled me when people have talked about what they're going to do. When they've said the whole thing of it'll probably be like, a MacBook Air maybe, or some new device we don't have, maybe the reintroduction of a smaller machine. The implication seems to be that Apple is, wanting to put a toe in the water and see how this goes before they go all in. They don't do that with a product. I mean, they did that long before WWDC 2020. Because then they were able to stand up there at WWDC 2020 and say, if you want to see how this works, you've been watching it work. Because a lot of what we've been presenting has been presented on these. We're telling the planet this is the thing we're doing. I don't think then that you go back and say, all right, guys, give me something tiny that if it fails, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that a lot of the and I don't exclude myself from this. I think a lot of the prognostications that people have made about what kind of hardware is going to be introduced next week is probably more reflective of their dreams, hopes, and desires than it is of any fundamental understanding of Apple's the way that Apple is going to create products in the space. Mm-hmm. So having said that, look. Yeah, this isn't a tentative thing, right? This isn't Apple, testing the waters to see whether or not people buy it. This is the future direction of the Mac. Apple already has a multi-year plan behind this, an engineering plan, a marketing plan, a product roadmap that this is going to happen with. The technology is all in place to see this transition through. There's no question, that this is the next evolution of the Mac. So it's just going to be really interesting to see what Apple launches out of the gate. But understand that if you've got an Intel-based Mac today, you're going to be replacing it with new Mac hardware at some point down the road. And when you do, that new hardware is going to have this new technology in it. We're going to see it iterated. We're going to see it evolved. We're going to see much greater functionality in a year or 2 years than we're going to see next week also, because these things are always iterative and evolutionary. And Apple's always sort of tweaking the matrix a little bit to get that right balance between functionality on the Mac and functionality on iOS or iPad OS or whatever. But yeah, the future comes to us next week.
You see, no, you actually just raised a point that I was considering on the live thing that I've been doing. Does this change the way that we sort of interact with our Macs? I feel like there may be 4 questions that lead into this one question that I have. First of all, does now, with the exception of manufacturing, does doing it really soup to nuts this time, not having to worry about anybody else's processors, change how often Apple would like to see us upgrade our Macs because of functionality, and also because who doesn't want, everybody to have the latest and greatest in terms of hardware? Do they then play with pricing on it to come down a bit? I began to wonder if they might salt the earth and make it just ridiculous to consider anything besides a Mac unless you're a hardcore gamer. And then I began to wonder about the Apple for Life thing that they talked about in Hong Kong. I don't know if you know about this, but it's a trademark application they've applied for that would basically seem to set up a subscription for hardware. I mean, yes, you could still walk into an Apple store next week, and obviously we're using dumb calendars here. But if you walk into an Apple store next week, is the Apple Silicon Mac, is it interchangeable with whatever's available now? Is it still going to be $2,200 for the same size machine? Or is this the beginning of Apple saying, right, we've now got this whole part of it down. I'll do the joke I did earlier. What's it going to cost to put you in this? Okay, well, how about $500 less?
Well, when Apple, if you remember back in 2010, before Apple introduced the iPad, we all knew that a tablet was coming. Mm-hmm. There was an enormous amount of speculation about what the Apple tablet was going to look like, how it was going to differ from the products that were already out there, and most importantly, what the price was. And a lot of the experts at the time were like, it's from Apple, so Apple's new tablet is going to cost $1,000. Mm-hmm. And Apple came out with an iPad starting at $499, and you could pick up jaws off the floor. People were amazed that Apple had done that, and Apple was able to do that in part because it controlled the production and manufacture of everything that went into the iPad from soup to nuts, as you just said. So yeah, that raises some very interesting possibilities. There's what it would cost for Apple to produce a device that it could still make a very healthy margin on, and then there's what the market will bear and what consumers are kind of oriented to spending. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is that especially for consumer laptops, there's a huge range, right? You can pick up a cheap business laptop for $200 or $300. From Newegg or Best Buy or Amazon or whatever, you can get a 2-in-1 device that might be a convertible tablet. You can spend $2,000 on a super high-end gaming rig too, gaming laptop rig, right? It really kind of spans the spectrum. Apple works in a much narrower range right now when it comes to pricing for its laptops, and it's in a premium range. It's in the same premium range that its high-end smartphones are in. But over time, we've seen that with the iPhone too. You've got low-end iPhones, you've got mid-range iPhones, you've got the high-end iPhones, you've got the premier iPhones that come out every year that you're going to spend reliably, let's say $800 to $1,500 on. You've got a budget iPhone that you can spend $300 on, right? Mm-hmm. There's a broad range there for a lot of people and a lot of different economic strata, as long as they set their expectations accordingly. You're not going to get the flagship features out of a $300 phone, but you're not throwing your money away on a disposable phone that you're going to have to replace in a year like you might, with something running on Android. So Apple has the opportunity here to really kind of reshape the market, reshape the way that we think about buying a computer. That's very exciting. In terms of tithing to Apple for your hardware every year, I got to tell you, Ken, I really turned the corner on this with my last iPhone purchase, because when I picked up my iPhone XR, now I rocked an iPhone 6 Plus for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. I was going to hold on to that thing. As a matter of fact, Apple replaced it once because the battery swelled up, and I used that replacement all the way up until I got a XR. When I got the XR, I decided to upgrade in the iPhone upgrade program because I realized that I didn't want to have to try to limp my iPhone over the finish line anymore, right? That I really wanted to try to stay more up to date with what Apple was doing. And it made sense for me at that point to get into the program because technically after 6 months, but after you've made a year's worth of payments, you can upgrade your phone. So if you are accustomed to getting a new phone every 12 to 18 months, you're going to come out ahead by just leasing your phone from Apple, if you will, through the iPhone upgrade program. You turn it in after you get your new phone. I just sent in my XR last week so I could get or after I got my 12. Worked out great for me as long as I stay on Apple's upgrade path for phones. If Apple gave me an opportunity to do something like that for a Mac, that would make a lot more sense for me as a consumer, as opposed to trying to justify a monolithic purchase of, let's say, $2,500 on a brand new, high-end, completely rigged out MacBook Pro that I know is going to last me for another 5 years, like the one that I'm using now is. So it's an opportunity here for some people where it makes sense. I hope it happens. I think that would be very cool. It's not going to work out for everyone, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to look at this going, "Well, that's crazy. It just doesn't make any sense for me." It doesn't have to make sense for you if it makes sense for enough of us.